Hey guys, it's Spooked and welcome back to my Steven Universe Reviewed series. Today's episode was Restaurant Wars, and honestly, I didn't like this episode that much due to the fact the whole episode started because of what Steven did, and there was consequences due to what Steven did. But Steven didn't face any of the consequences. Instead, Ronaldo lost his girlfriend, but aside from that, it was nice to see we got to see more interaction between the two shops of Beach City. But anyway, let's begin with this episode. So this episode starts off with Steven going to Beach City Walk fries. He sees PD and decides to order something new. PD finds some pizza sticks in the back of the fridge and cooks them up. Coffee onlooks as Steven comes past and realizes that Beach City Walk fries is ripping off their food. Coffee gets triggered by this and puts up a sign stating that they are now selling fries. This starts the reboot of the Restaurant Wars. The next day, Fryman starts selling different kinds of pizza food, and Coffee starts selling different kinds of chip food. Steven doesn't like the way the restaurants are, and decides to gather Coffee, Kiki, Ronaldo and PD to a meeting. Steven then devises the plan to make Ronaldo and Kiki go out. This plan seems to work out, with Ronaldo and Coffee deciding that love is more important than their little feud. But Ronaldo's girlfriend comes along and sees this and breaks up with him, causing him to become distressed and depressed. Coffee and Fryman learn that this was a scheme to stop the war and decide that the war is not over just yet. Steven calls another meeting and they decide to create their own restaurant to compete with the two restaurants after learning that's what had happened before, and then Coffee and Fryman teamed up to kick the old restaurant out of Beach City. The two families arrive at Steven's house to have their restaurant meals. Coffee orders pizza and Fryman orders chips, of course. The food outbeats their kind of food at their restaurant, and they beg Steven to shut down the restaurant due to the fact they know they can't win if Steven is in the business league. The episode ends off with presumably everything going back to normal except for Ronaldo's relationship. So let me now move on to things I liked and disliked about this episode. Well, the thing I liked was we got to see all three of the gems once again. We've seen the reappearance of Pearl, Peridot and Amethyst, but we haven't seen Garnet so far in the Steven nuke. But I'm glad Garnet got to make an appearance in this episode, and the rivalry between the two restaurants was a great topic for an episode. I really liked how we got to see Kiki, Jenny, PD and Ronaldo again, as they are usually uncommon characters to see. And throughout most of the episodes regarding the cool kids, we see Lars, Sour Cream and Buck. I also really love the gems outfits and how they turned the temple into a restaurant. I think that was a really cool part of the episode. Now let me move on to things I disliked about this episode. Well, I've mentioned before I didn't like Steven in this episode due to the fact he made Ronaldo lose his girlfriend. I was hoping by the end of the episode that would get resolved, but the only thing that was resolved was the feud between the two different restaurants. And it was not really entirely Steven's fault, but Steven was the reason this whole drama between the two restaurants started, and he suggested that Kiki and Ronaldo pretended to date. Usually Steven would try fixing the problem, but he did nothing to help Ronaldo. That's my only really complaint about the episode. I like the concept, but just the fact that Steven ruined Ronaldo's relationship kind of shows that he isn't that great of a person in my opinion. But overall, I give this episode a 6 out of 10. Like the new Lars. It wasn't as cringy as the new Lars, but both sum pretty well to be the same kind of rating. Join me next time for my review of Kiki's Pizza Delivery Service.